What's happened now that is mind-blowing is that the FCC, when it made its determination that they didn't need to update their limits, which is why we have our lawsuit against them, but now they have made a new proposed rule about the higher frequencies for 5G. And also for lower frequencies, they've made new, I don't want to call them safety standards because they're not really safety standards, but they're being used as safety standards for a whole swatches of new frequencies, much lower than wireless and higher into the millimeter wave. And they're saying that the only thing to worry about is heat, because that's been proven because of their determination in 2019. The city of Boston, Massachusetts wrote to the FCC regarding the FCC's frequencies, 5G frequencies, asking the commission to examine the impact on health of the low level multiple exposures. There have been for years now elected officials sending letters to the FCC asking for 5G safety data. If you don't know about the New Hampshire Commission report on 5G health and environment, really important to know what they did. They issued a final report after 1 year of investigation. Their commissioners had members of the House of Representatives and Senate, engineers and experts. They had presentations by expert scientists and the National Institutes of Health, and they issued 15 recommendations. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they are recommendations to the state to protect the public and the environment and reduce exposure. Starting with something we need well, you would think we would need before we roll anything out, that the state, or in our situation, I'm going to take it to Montgomery County, should be measuring the radio frequency radiation levels and post maps of the radio frequency levels for the public. They also are calling to require that 5G structures be labeled for radio frequency radiation at eye level and readable from 9 feet away. Now, France is kind of sort of doing this to a degree in that they just started. These are their radiation measurement sites in France. And actually, many countries, but not the United States, measure and publish radio frequency radiation levels online. Some do real-time measurements. Some of these measurements I can't say are quite adequate. Some are in better positions than others. Sometimes the websites don't work. Some have these real-time monitors near schools and other locations, but not Montgomery County or the United States. They recommend an independent study of 5G health effects and that the FCC should do an environmental assessment on the impact of 5G. That federal agencies be engaged with ecological knowledge to develop radio frequency limits that protect trees, plants, birds, insects, and pollinators. And I hope, if I haven't, I might not have been clear, that the limits that we have in the United States, we're not set to protect the environment, but only to avoid heating. But they're really aimed at humans. They're inadequate to protect humans, but they have nothing to do with trees or plants or wildlife. They were never developed for impacts to the environment. This is a serious gap in accountability. There is a letter from the EPA to myself where this was confirmed. When I asked several questions, but I just put a couple in here. I asked who's researched birds and bees. The EPA responded they don't have a funded mandate. When I asked about research on damage to memory and other things, they referred me to a 1984 document called The Biological Effects of Radio Frequency Radiation from 1984. And there's no one watching the store on this issue. There's no one in the federal government that is mandated to look at the research that continues to be published every week, indicating that wireless radiation is not safe, and if 5G is going to increase it, we are looking at unprecedented levels of this radiation, and that's why so many scientists are concerned. They also recommend a multimedia campaign to educate people on how to minimize radio frequency radiation, especially for children and pregnant women. They recommend wireless radiation-free zones and that the medical community develop protections and protocols for people harmed by electromagnetic fields. I have an image here from the Archbishop Makarios Hospital in Cyprus, where they have removed Wi-Fi from the pediatric and neonatal units. And they actually have a national campaign educating parents on how to reduce exposure to wireless radiation. I was just part of the electromagnetic field medical conference that was held in California in 2019, and now it was virtual with COVID here in the United States, but training medical doctors on how to treat EMF-associated illness. They also recommended software to reduce radiation exposure into the body, that schools and libraries replace Wi-Fi with Ethernet connections and hardwired connections, and that there be the deployment of fiber optic connectivity to homes and wired connections inside homes and schools. So right now I'm talking to you on a computer. This is my computer, actually. It's a picture of my computer. And this is the setup. I have an adapter and I have an Ethernet cord, and everything is wired. It's more secure. It's fast. My Zoom calls don't drop. And I am not connecting with anything outside. And having wired connections reduces the overall need to use wireless. So wherever I can, I have wired connections. I have a wired telephone as well. Now, one of the myths about this issue that in Montgomery County keeps getting propagated somehow is that we need this for a virtual school. We need 5G for all of these applications. But when you unpack what's being said, actually a lot of it isn't so. So for example, for schools, people need modems and connectivity in their homes. They should not be on a cell phone connecting to an outside tower for school. There needs to be access to the internet for everyone. But even if I was in a house, I don't want to be connecting to an outside tower. You connect to the service in your home. People need service in their home, and they need financial help to get that service. I did another talk just recently, and someone said, look, my MiFi, or it's called MiFi, I think they're giving that to the kids too, is $17 a month. That's how much I pay. I can't afford the $60 to $100 that the other services require I pay. So this is what we have to address to bridge the digital divide. And just recently, lawmakers in New York put forward proposed legislation, which would be similar to the New Hampshire Commission legislation that created it. And so that's it's really exciting that they've introduced a bill to create a special commission charged with investigating the evidence linking radio frequency radiation to health and environmental effects.